Okay, so tell us a little bit about you, your background, and the foundation that you started.
My background, Carlos Dunlap from Charleston, South Carolina. I started my Carlos Dunlap Foundation. Simply the foundation with my name on it. We started with the importance of education in inner city athletes because, growing up for me, I was fortunate enough to have the athletic ability to get into whatever school I wanted, but I had let my grades stack behind, so when the schools came knocking, and they were interested in getting me in their school, my grades were an issue. So with my platform, having these kids looking up to me and pretty much everybody back home, because I was one of the first ones to do it, I wanted to try to get ahead of the curve and pound in the importance of education so that none of the kids have to go through what I had to, trying to make up for all the time that I got behind or didn't take this class serious. My favorite subjects I got A's in, so it was easy. The classes that weren't exactly my favorite, I didn't put in the work that I needed to get as good of grades as I could have gotten. So I had to test very highly on my SAT and ACT, to offset it. And I accomplished that, but still, you don't want to have to put all that weight on one test when you can take a lot of that weight off by just, taking school as serious as you take it, athletics.
Absolutely. Tell us about some of your favorite classes. What did you enjoy and excel in?
Math. Anything with math related, something that I excel because, the way my dad taught it to me growing up, because he's a businessman, he used to let me always, count his business as money. So all math, all that stuff, I thought of it, more as, money or money problems or however. And I was able to, kind of figure it out and just, be excited about, being a part with your dad. And sometimes, once I got of age, he wouldn't count it after me, so you had to make sure you got it right, because otherwise you take on that weight of, letting the family down. So that was kind of, something that pounded in the value of the importance of getting it correct. Yeah.
And so you talk about academic performance and the importance of kids really looking at their academics, focusing on getting good grades and learning the material in school, but bullying can sometimes disrupt that, and that's also a focus of your foundation.
Yes. So for about 7-6 years, I've been going into a lot of schools in my local community here and there in Cincinnati, Ohio, as well as Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm from. And I typically talk to the kids about the importance of education, taking school as excelling in the classroom as well as you excel in the football field. So I've talked about that with those kids for 6-7 years. Last year, during the off season, I was made aware of a situation that happened in downtown, in Cincinnati, Ohio, with a kid. I think I'll leave his name off because there's been some back and forth battles about school, who's right, who's wrong, blase, blase. But basically, a kid committed suicide after a bullying incident happened in school. 2 days later, he decided to take his own life. He was I want to say 11 years old or something like that. And for me to hear that, an 11-year-old felt that alone or that impacted by bullying that he needed to take his own life and didn't want to deal with life anymore was something that kind of baffled me, because for me as a kid, all I thought about was being a kid and everything was funny. I mean, maybe I had a little bit thicker skin, so I let stuff roll off, or maybe I took it out in practice or on the football field, something like that. Because little did I know, once doing more research on what bullying is and the different ways that people are being bullied or doing the bullying, kind of could relate to some of them. You know, I had a big foot. My foot typically stuck with my age until I was 16, which I still wear at 16. Typically, when I was whatever age I was, that's what size shoe I wore. So it was kind of hard for me to find shoes. So I had one white shoe, one black shoe, and maybe like one shoe for practice. So, you know, some kids, you know, in my school typically had all the latest trends, you know, the Jordans when they first came out or whatever. And I had my shoe for the school year, and then I had my basketball shoe, or obviously my cleats, or whatever sport it was that I was playing. So, you know, people would, you know, kind of clown me for that. My gap that I had, you know, it's different than most people's teeth, you know, perfectly straight teeth, which is typically the case, but not always the case. And as you mentioned, it's just, you know, my whole family has it, so I wasn't exactly motivated to change it because my whole family has it, so it's like a family heirloom type thing for me. But in school, they saw this different, and, you know, they thought it was funny, blase, just stuff like that. So I just wanted to take a stand and use my platform while already in these schools to tackle one of the cause that was very serious and very at hand, and that was bullying. I mean, I felt like me going in these schools already, being actively involved in these schools already, knowing the effects of bullying and how big bullying is, I feel like that was another angle that I could talk to these kids and use my platform to make a difference. Basically, just kind of sum it up.
And so when you go out to schools, and this has been over the course of a year or two now?
This year is my first year doing bullying, yes.
So one of the things that I hear a lot from states and local health departments and schools too is that bullying and intolerance and vandalism and violence in school has increased. Started through the election cycle and since inauguration. And you know, I'm just wondering, when you talk with kids, if they talk about things that bullying has gotten worse, or do you think it's getting better?
I honestly, in my personal opinion, I think it's gotten worse because social media today. You know, you have a lot more people who are a lot more comfortable talking behind the computer and never have to deal with any of the consequences. You know, obviously, you know, back in the day, things were handled differently, you know. But with social media, all these kids having platform and access to, you know, computer and whatever, the web, whatever it is, people are, you know, a lot more people are sadly getting involved rather than trying to stop it or, you know, put an end to it. A lot more people feel confident about speaking out because, you know, they don't have to cross paths with this person the next day at school. They're probably at another school or something. So I feel like that's one of the big things that has enhanced, made bullying bigger. So I agree with you with that. Yes, I think bullying has gotten bigger over the years, simply because, you know, social media and all the different platforms that people have a voice now on.
And how important do you think it is for bystanders, for people that see bullying happening? How important is it for them to step in and do something?
If you're not stepping in and helping the person, you're just as bad as the problem. You're a bully yourself if you turn a blind eye or don't at least, you know, tap somebody along the way and point them in the direction to help that person. If you don't want a person to be involved and attached to it, you can, you know, quietly go to, you know, the next official, teacher, parent, principal, guidance counselor, whomever is an adult that you look up to, or somebody that you think have a value and care and do something about it, or somebody who has the experience that knows what to do in those situations. You just make them aware of it and, you know, let them handle it from there. I mean, if you don't want a person to be attached and hands-on to it, don't turn a blind eye. Just open somebody else's eye to it. That's kind of what I'm trying to tell these kids in the schools.
Yeah, be an upstander, right?
Yeah, do not be a bystander, because, you know, a bystander is just as bad as a bully.
In terms of sports, you know, because of the competitive nature of sports and also sports in schools where kids sometimes pick teams, sometimes kids can feel marginalized and left out and even picked on or bullied because of their lack of ability or ability in different ways, or their size, or, you know, just different things. And what would you say to kids that that are engaged in sports and the importance of not bullying in sports?
Everyone deserves an opportunity. You know, had I not been given my opportunity, I would not be where I am today. Keep that competitive nature in mind, because you know when kids are picking teams, they're thinking about winning. They're trying to do whatever it takes to win. But you know, it's not always about the game right then and there. You know, some things are bigger than the game. You know, the relationship that you have with that person. You know, still to this day on Facebook, I get old school pictures of myself posted with people from around my elementary school, middle school, whomever, and they remember these pictures more so than I, because now being in the place that I am, I've probably taken a bunch of photos, millions of photos, and it's not that I don't remember them. I need the picture to remember them, because a lot of things have happened since then. And typically when I see the photo, I can kind of put together the story of the day or where we were or what it was. So it's pretty cool to see, people holding on to these memories that you back then did not realize would have that impact on them or you 20-some years later.
It's the importance of kindness, right?
Yeah.
Just being kind and open to each other.
Yeah, little did you know that one of your friends you've seen there growing up now admires you and looks up to you as an idol, or teaches their kid or uses you as an example for their kid to look up to, and they wouldn't do that if you were a bully in school, or a bad person in school. So that's one thing that I admire and love about my platform, and just being myself since day one.
So tell us about your legacy and what you hope to achieve on the bullying end, the bullying prevention end. What do you hope to achieve?
I would love to put together a system, a program, a curriculum, something that is universal, that we can get into almost every school, so that we can help put an end to bullying. I feel like me using my platform has brought awareness in ways that I did not imagine, and it's not that it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing because it brought awareness to bullying. And now I want to take the next step, because everybody already knew what bullying was, and everybody knew that bullying was going on. And nobody was doing nothing about it. But now with suicide being tied to bullying, that's one of the places where I personally feel like everyone needs to take a stand, because a kid should not want to no longer be a kid anymore and commit suicide. Because I just, as a kid, all I thought about was going out of school, riding my bike, to my friend's house, wherever, and being a kid. Like right now, I still wish I was a kid, with all the bills and all the trouble, your parents take care of everything. So I still can't imagine, me as a kid not wanting to be a kid no more. So that's it's crazy with me.
And we talked about that a little bit, the isolation that kids feel when they're bullied, and misunderstood or understood by their peers, if they aren't understood and they are in that dark place.
Yeah, typically that is exactly why the kids do it, because they feel that alone. They don't feel like they have any help. They feel like everyone's against them, and they don't know who to turn to. And maybe they've said something at home to their parents, maybe their parents said something to the teacher, but as soon as the teacher's not there, the stuff is happening. So that's when you need multiple different people to be aware of what's going on, so that way someone else can get involved when you and I are not there. Or I'm in Cincinnati, somebody in Baltimore is going through bullying, so you don't have to reach directly to you or I, or to the website, which is a great resource. That gives you plenty of different options and steps on how to handle bullying, what to do if you're being bullied, who to talk to, how you can handle it. So those are pretty good resources, and that's something that I strive to partner with, or create of my own, or something that we can get into a lot of the classrooms. And that's one of the reasons why I use this book from a local author in Cincinnati, Malik the Difference Maker, because we sent the book out to all of these stops that I made along my bullying tour throughout the season. So we challenged them to read it. So you got that that literacy aspect from there, and then we also when we got there, we discussed the book. Then we created a topic about bullying. That kind of broke the ice. We started a topic about bullying, talked to people. First of all right. So Malik the Difference Maker. In that book, Malik was being bullied, and the principal finally stepped in and did something about it, and the principal left it up to Malik to I don't want to tell the whole story because nobody read it, but he left it up to him to make a decision whether or not to punish the bully or to work with the bully. And Malik went about it the way that he went about it, and I felt like it being in a children's book is a great way for the kids to have another way to, I guess, start the conversation, or to see that there's more ways than punishing the bully, because you don't know what he's going through, like you mentioned. You don't know what he's going through at home that's sparking him to be this way. Just to keep him in mind as well, within reason. Obviously, it's not okay to be a bully, but maybe he has a reason. I challenge people to try to figure out the reason, because maybe that's one extra person that you can have on your team to help you prevent the next person.
One of the things that I often say to people is we need to take a step back when we see a kid that's not sitting in their chair in school, or they are showing some kind of bad behavior, what we would see as a bad behavior. Teachers are really quick to send a referral slip to the principal, right? Yeah. And that kind of sends kids down a downward spiral where they're shamed and the actions are all punitive.
Or they get that image that they feel like they're going to hold up, constantly being that bad kid, or getting sent to the principal office or whatever. So yeah.
Right, and then it used to be that with zero tolerance policies, the kids would sometimes get suspended automatically, and we know that really disrupts their learning. It disrupts their healthy relationships in school. So I think if people make a shift and start to understand behavior as communication. What is this kid trying to tell me? If you see a shift in behavior, what are they trying to tell me? And the same is true with bullying. Sometimes you kind of see it escalating. It doesn't just start off as, this big affront to another kid. You start to notice some patterns. I think, sometimes getting to kids early on can help to maybe give you some insight into what's happening with them, because there's usually a cause behind, right?
Yeah, typically, if you get to them early on, you're laying that ground and that firm foundation of, about bullying, and that bullying isn't cool. So I feel like that puts more good soldiers out there for people who are trying to make a difference.
And it sounds like the book too talks a little bit about restorative justice, like not blaming and shaming anyone, but starting the dialogue and making the decision. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions for parents, teachers, or even policymakers on what you think should be important for them to focus on to prevent bullying?
Just keep the conversation going. Be in tune with the kids. Be aware of, if they have behavioral changes. Acknowledge their body language, because that'll typically tell a story in itself. Be active at their school, so you can see with your own eyes how it is. Pop up every now and then, peek in the classroom. With your younger kids, obviously, when they're older, you gotta give them some space so they can grow on their own. But just be involved.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share?
Bullying isn't cool, and it should not be involved in any school.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.